At 71 years old, I finally understand which things quietly ruin a man's life. I have looked back at 8 decades of mistakes, and today I want to warn you about the things I would never, ever do again. If you want to reach the end of your road without the heavy weight of regret, listen closely to what I'm about to say. Let's have a real conversation man to man. Go ahead and make yourself comfortable. Maybe take a deep breath. I'm not here to give you a lecture or sell you a dream. I'm here because at my age, the view of the past is crystal clear, and I see traps that you might be walking right into today. Life moves fast, much faster than you think. And there are some burdens I carried for 40 years that I now realize were completely hollow. Let me be very honest with you here right from the start. The first thing that I would never do again is live my life to meet the expectations of other people. This one took me decades to understand, and the price I paid was far too high. I spent a huge portion of my prime trying to be the man the world told me to be. I wanted the house that impressed the neighbors. I wanted the job title that made me look successful at high school reunions. I constantly ask myself, what will they think of my car, my clothes, my choices? But here is the honest truth that only time can give you. Most of those people didn't actually care about me. They were too busy worrying about their own lives and their own insecurities. I was sacrificing my authentic happiness for the sake of a crowd that wasn't even watching. If I could start over, I would be much more ruthless with my boundaries. I would say no to the things that drained my soul, even if it made me look unsuccessful in someone else's eyes. True success is being able to look at yourself in the mirror at 81 and know that you lived a life that belonged to you, not a performance for an audience. One mistake I won't repeat is giving away my power to the opinions of strangers. This quietly cost me my peace for years, leading me to another realization. I would never again sacrifice my health on the altar of blind ambition. We men are raised to be providers. We are taught that our value is tied to our production, our sweat, and our fatigue. I took that to an extreme. I worked while I was sick. I ignored the tension in my chest and the lack of sleep as if they were badges of honor. I thought that if I just reached the next financial goal, I could finally afford to take care of myself. But the body keeps a tally, and it never forgets a debt. Now that I'm 81, I realize that no amount of money in my bank account can buy back the flexibility of my knees or the strength of a heart that wasn't overworked for 30 years. If you are young or in your middle years, hear me clearly. Your career is what you do, but your health is who you are. Do not trade your long-term vitality for a short-term promotion. You cannot enjoy your legacy if you are too broken to stand up and see it. This was a heavy price to pay, and it is a mistake I see men making every single day. They spend their health to get wealth and then spend all their wealth trying to get back their health. It is a cycle of madness I would never enter again. Something I misunderstood for years was the nature of pride. If I could go back, I would never again let a grudge sit in my heart for more than a single day. In my 50s, I went years without speaking to a close friend over a political argument that neither of us even remembers clearly today. I thought holding my ground made me strong. I thought that refusing to be the first to call was a sign of character and backbone. It wasn't strength, it was a prison. Resentment is a heavy price to pay for the illusion of being right. At this age, I've buried more friends than I can count. When you stand at a graveside, you never think, I'm glad I never apologized. You only think about the years of laughter you missed because of a silly ego. Most men don't realize this until it hurts too much to fix. I would never again choose my pride over my people. I would reach out. I would forgive, and I would move on. Life is simply too short to carry stones in your pocket that belong on the ground. This brings me to another heavy realization about how we use our time. I would never again postpone the moments that actually matter while waiting for the perfect time. This is a trap that caught me for decades. I used to tell my wife and my children that we would do the big things once life calmed down, once the mortgage was paid, once the kids were out of school, once the business was stable and the economy was better. But here is the secret. Life never calms down. It only changes shape. While I was waiting for the perfect time, the children grew up and moved away. While I was waiting for the storm to pass, I missed the beauty of the rain. If I had a second chance, I would be more present in the mundane. I would understand that a Tuesday night dinner with my family is just as sacred as a luxury vacation. The tomorrow we are all waiting for is a myth, a shadow that recedes as we walk toward it. All we have is this breath and this moment right here. One thing I've learned is that the perfect time is a lie told by fear to keep us from living. This one is hard for many men to hear, but it was a mistake that cost me a lot of joy. I would never again be afraid of looking foolish. I spent so much energy trying to maintain a serious image. I wanted to be seen as the man who had it all figured out. I didn't try new hobbies because I didn't want to be a beginner. I didn't dance at weddings because I didn't want to look clumsy. I didn't say I love you enough because I thought it made me look weak or overly emotional. What a waste of human experience. Vulnerability is the highest form of courage a man can possess. There is a deep, profound freedom in being able to laugh at yourself. I would never again let the fear of a stranger's smirk stop me from trying something that makes me feel alive. Whether it's learning a new language at 60 or starting a business at 70, the only real failure is staying still out of embarrassment. Most men are so worried about being mocked that they become statues. I would rather be a fool who lived than a genius who watched from the sidelines. Let's talk about something that was a heavy price to pay for me, ignoring my internal silence. For a long time, I lived a very loud life. I was always working, always watching the news, always fixing something, always planning the next move. I was terrified of being alone with my own thoughts because I didn't know who I was without my titles and my tasks. I ignored my spirituality, not just in a religious sense, but in the sense of being connected to the quiet pulse of the universe. Today, I would never again let the noise of the world drown out my inner peace. I found that the most important answers don't come from a screen or a loud conversation. They come from a quiet walk in the woods, from a moment of deep gratitude in the early morning, or from simply sitting still and breathing. I would have sought this stillness decades ago. It's in the silence that you find out who you actually are when you aren't busy being the boss, the father, or the provider. This isn't abstract. It's the difference between an anxious, frantic life and a grounded, solid one. I would never again neglect the garden of my own soul. Another thing I would never repeat is neglecting my tribe. Men are facing a loneliness epidemic today, and for a long time, I was part of it. I thought my wife was my only necessary social connection. I let my male friendships fade away because I was too busy with my career or my immediate family. But as I got older and the challenges of life grew heavier, I realized that we need brothers. We need men who can tell us the harsh truth. Men who can laugh with us until it hurts, and men who can support us when the world gets cold. I would never again let those bonds go cold. A man without a tribe is a man at risk. I would invest time in my friends. I would show up for them, and I would let them show up for me. Loneliness is a slow poison. Brotherhood is the antidote. I would also never again spend my money to impress people I don't even like. I think back to the expensive things I bought that I didn't even need. I was buying status, but status is a debt that never gets paid off. You buy a car to impress someone, and then you have to buy a bigger house to keep up the image. It is a treadmill that leads to exhaustion. True luxury is not a Rolex or a luxury sedan. True luxury is having a clear conscience, a healthy body, and time to spend with people who love you for your soul, not your bank account. I would have invested that money in experiences, in trips with my family, in education, or in helping those who truly need it. When you help someone else, you realize that is the only investment that never loses us value. I would never again trade my time for things that only serve to feed my vanity. Something I misunderstood for years was the concept of control. I spent decades trying to control everything: my family, my business, my future. It was exhausting and ultimately impossible. At 81, I've learned that life is more like a river than a machine. You can't control the flow. You can only learn how to navigate. I would never again waste my energy worrying about things that are outside of my hands. I would focus on my own reactions, my own character, and let the rest go. This shift from control to acceptance is what finally gave me peace. It's the difference between fighting the waves and learning how to surf. I would never again live as if I were immortal. This might sound strange, but most men in their 40s and 50s live as if they have an infinite supply of time. They waste days complaining about things they can't change. They spend weeks in bad moods over minor inconveniences. They act as if they have 500 years left. At 81, I know exactly how many grains of sand are left in my hourglass. And that makes every sunset feel like a miracle. That makes a good conversation feel like a treasure found in the dirt. If I could go back, I would have stopped treating my time like it was cheap. I would have been more protective of my energy. I would have spent less time being angry and more time being amazed by the simple fact that I exist. I would never again take a single day for granted. And finally, I would never again define myself by my failures. I used to let a bad business deal or a personal mistake haunt me for years. I carried those errors like heavy stones, letting them crush my confidence. But now, with the perspective of age, I see that those failures were just the tuition I had to pay for my wisdom. They didn't make me a loser. They made me a teacher. I would never again be my own harshest critic. I would be my own best friend. I would forgive myself for not knowing then what I know now. Now, before I leave you with a final thought, I want to ask you for something. If this conversation touched you, if it made you rethink even one small thing about your journey, please consider subscribing to this channel. My goal here is to share these reflections so that more men can find their way with a bit more light and a bit less weight. If you found value in my 81 years of trial and error, hit that like button. It helps this message reach the men who might be struggling in silence right now. And please talk to me in the comments. Tell me, what is the one thing you've realized you need to stop doing? Or perhaps tell me a lesson you've learned that you think every man should hear. I read your words, and they remind me that we are all in this together. No matter the distance or the age, you don't have to wait until you are 81 to get this right. You don't have to reach the end of the road to realize you are carrying the wrong luggage. You can start being the man you want to be right now in this very hour. You can choose to be lighter. You can choose to be kinder to yourself. You can choose to let go of the weights that don't belong to you. I've learned that a man's life isn't measured by the things he gathered, but by the peace he found. It isn't measured by the battles he won, but by the love he gave and the regrets he was brave enough to leave behind. I spent too many years fighting the wrong wars. I hope you don't do the same. The world will tell you to be faster, louder, and richer. My 81 years tell you to be steadier, quieter, and deeper. Listen to the silence. It has more to tell you than the noise ever will. Take care of your heart because everything else flows from it. Take care of your people because they are the only things that truly stay with you. I'm going to sit here for a moment and just enjoy the quiet of this room, the light coming through the window, and the simple fact that I am still here to share this with you. I hope you do the same. Find a moment of stillness today. Look at your life not as a problem to be solved, but as a gift to be opened. Life is a beautiful, messy, short, and incredible journey. Don't miss it because you were too busy trying to be perfect or trying to please people who don't matter. Take care of yourself, my friend. Keep your heart open. Keep your head up. And remember, the best time to start living is the moment you decide to be honest with yourself about what truly matters. It is never too late to stop doing what ruins you and start doing what heals you. I'll be here if you ever want to talk again. Just remember, you have less time than you think, but more power than you realize. Use it wisely. Use it for peace. Use it for love. I wish you a life of few regrets and many moments of quiet joy. Goodbye for now.